When you go into the SmartThings application and you head into the automations page, you'll find that the word automations within there has been replaced with the word routines. And this is because with SmartThings, automations includes more than just those basic automations that you create yourself. However, when you head into your devices tab and you choose a device, you'll notice a new routines page down at the bottom. And not only does this show you the routines and the automations that this device is a part of, but it will also allow you to create a new one by pressing the plus up in the top right. Of course, today it's updates like this that you'll get from our video, and I even have some news about the future of SmartThings. Hello Automators, thanks for tuning in again. I'm Brian from Automate Your Life, and that little change there should tell you quite a bit about where the future is for the whole SmartThings platform. For myself, I didn't think it made a lot of sense for us to go to an automations tab and then have a subsection of automations, which couples really well with the fact that Samsung will be bringing more and more suggested routines and automations to your life, and it couples really well with some of the new features that they've given us today. Whenever you create a new routine, it doesn't matter which page you start from, but what you will find is a discover page down at the bottom right of any of those routine starts. And what you will notice right at the top is the first set of routines that they're giving you are suggested ones that they've kind of pre-created, and that once you've selected one, for example, getting the vacuum here to start when people are away from the home, this, you just have to fill in the different components that you have within your home. So it makes it very easy to create a routine. And unfortunately for me, I don't have a robot vacuum in the SmartThings platform, so I couldn't create this one. But below those basic routines on that page is actually a number of the smart apps. And you probably recognize these as things you've already installed and used, although there's a few other ones that you can pick from there. Now, this is because over time, I think these smart apps are going to become less and less important, and some other features that we have access to will become more important. Some good news for me and for those of you in Canada is that we got access to SmartThings Labs recently, and if you want to know where that is, head to the More tab in the application and look for this icon. If it is there, well, it's kind of dependent on your country what you're going to have access to, whether you even have access to the feature, and the different experimental features that are available to you inside of Labs. But I wanted to show you a couple that I think are pretty useful today, and one that I think will be useful in the future when a few bugs get worked out. One that's useful is called Gentle Wake Up, and when you go into this and you start to create your Gentle Wake Up routine, what you're doing is basically setting an alarm clock for your lights to slowly ramp up over time. And you can set a number of days, you can set the time, and you can even set the brightness levels that it starts at and ends at. So I really like that little piece of the feature. The one drawback here is that you can only set one per household, but another great component of this is you can also turn on other devices at the time of your alarm. There's another one that you can do that's called Turn It Off When I Leave, and you can already do this kind of thing with the Smart Lighting Smart app, so I don't find that component really useful. But what I do find really useful is when you combine it with one of the cameras you may already have. For example, this SmartThings camera that I have, it does person detection, or at least you can set it to do person detection, and part of this routine that you can create, or this automation that you can create, actually uses that person detection to turn things on and off when you leave a space using cameras like this, and I think the AOTech 360 camera that I have and still haven't opened. The one that should be useful in the future has a few bugs right now, and it's called offline diagnosis, but this is obviously a tool that would really help in the future if it's working correctly. Today, when I go in and I do a scan and my hub is still plugged in, it tells me nothing is disconnected, and when I unplug my hub, well, then I get all the problems and I can't really do good diagnosis, but it will allow you to scan and give us some tools, hopefully, in the future. So let's keep watching that one. I'll give that feedback to SmartThings that it's not quite working right today, but I'm excited for this future. I just released a new smart home gadgets video where I showcase the newest products on the market, but in that video I actually showed some older products from zoos. I did that because they just released 3 products to the European Union and actually Australia and New Zealand as well. There are a couple of fairly new sensors and a Z-Wave connectivity stick as well, so you can check those out if you live in those areas. I'm really excited for those of you in Europe because zoos makes great products, but right here they've also created a brand new version of this 4-in-1 sensor from Zeus. It's a 700 series level chip which gives you Z-Wave Plus, so you can actually buy that one as well. That one so far says North America on it, but it's a great new version of this. But going back to those sensors that you can buy in the EU and Australia, well, there's actually a contact sensor there, and you can buy an outdoor waterproof housing that would allow you to take the contact sensor outdoors there. That's great, but if you want to go a little simpler, there's a newer device from Ring that you can use. And actually, my buddy Jimmy over at SmartThings Beat, who does a great job on Twitter of detailing everything SmartThings, has already created this process that allows you to set it up with Samsung SmartThings. Now, it's a little bit of an expensive one, but it's available in the US and in the UK, so you can look at that if you're looking for an outdoor sensor as well. One of the things I showed during that video with the Zeus sensors was this pad attached to this sensor right here, and what's really going on is this is a pressure mat, and when I press that you can see the sensor going off, and when I release it's going off again in the opposite direction. It didn't make sense to give you guys all the details in that video, but here I think you guys could implement this really easily. So I'm going to give you the details that you'll need. I'll come out with a full tutorial in the future, so don't worry. The first component is this pressure mat, and it has 2 wires you can see, and they're going into this sensor. But before, when I bought it off of Amazon, and you could check that link out, it went to a chime, and so when I pressed this, that chime would actually react, and it was just 2 simple wires causing all of that to happen. That's critical component number 1. Critical component number 2 is this sensor, and this is actually the AOTech Door and Window Sensor 7 Pro. That's the version that I've used. There's probably other products that you could use, but the important component of this is that it has dry contact. So what you can see is the 2 wires going from this pressure mat into the sensor, and what I had to do was actually find a custom device handler to use with this in order to convert it from that basic magnet sensor, the basic door sensor, into using these dry contacts. Now what I ended up doing was using the AOTech Door and Window Sensor Basic custom device handler that allowed you to do that, and then everything came together. And when I have it under myself here on my couch that I'm sitting on, well, as I do those things, it's changing all my lights, and I've also used things like modes to make sure that it's happening at the right times. But I think you guys now, you can see this just goes open and closed, or that's the different status it shows whenever I press on the mat, and therefore you can automate based on this. So this is a really easy DIY project that I think a lot of you could take on. A big change going on with Samsung SmartThings is, of course, the Edge driver program. And if you've been following us, then you know all about this program. But what has happened is Samsung released a number of base or official Edge drivers, and there weren't a ton of devices that worked with them. But we actually have a really great thread, again, from Jimmy over at SmartThings Beat, who put this together. And he came out with the following devices that I'm sure you're pretty excited about and have a number of them. Zigbee buttons from IKEA, as well as a Giro Smart, plus Zigbee locks from Yale, Kwikset, and Schlage. The window treatments, again, from IKEA and Somfy are things that a lot of people have, and when we go to fans and dimmer switches, you just have a ton of different companies that you know and love, including Jasco or GE, Fabaro, AOTech, Inovelli, Zeus. There's just a ton out there. So you can check out that list in the links down below if you want to go through it fully, but there's a lot coming to this program and it's great to see. Just a little while ago was the Samsung Developers Conference, and this means that we get a number of announcements related not just to Samsung, but with SmartThings. And one of the biggest announcements for SmartThings was that part of the company had joined the Thread group. And not only did they join it, but they joined the board of directors. So they are definitely looking at implementing Thread throughout their entire platform, which is really exciting. But one of the things that they didn't say is whether or not the V3 SmartThings Hub and the AOTech SmartThings Hub would have their Thread radio turned on. And you might not know that there's a Thread radio in those hubs, and that's because it has never been turned on. But with Samsung joining the board of directors, I think, although they're not going to confirm it right now for technical and business reasons, I think that we will see that happen still. Another big piece of news from the SmartThings team was that they will be applying the Matter standard or implementing the Matter standard in a number of ways. First off, the SmartThings hubs will become Matter controllers, but what was also very interesting was that we will see Matter come to their Galaxy devices in some cases, as well as televisions and some of their family hub appliances. That means that it's not just the SmartThings gear that's going to have this Matter standard applied to it, and this could mean that we'll have additional control options for other Samsung products in our home. But one of the things that I said very specifically was that the SmartThings hub would become a controller, and one of the things that a lot of you will be looking for is whether or not the hubs will be a SmartThings bridge. And the reason for that is that your Zigbee and Z-Wave devices would then be exposed to those other Matter controllers in your home. Samsung was pretty clear, and they said that no, their hubs will not be Matter bridges, which would initially be a pretty big disappointment just kind of looking at that. But I'm not so sure that this is a problem. See, when you look at this slide that's up on screen right now, you'll notice that it says controllers can also expose other connected systems or other connected devices to the rest of the network. So I'm not sure that it needs to be a Matter bridge as well as a Matter controller to do this. So I'd love to hear what you think. Do you think that we're still going to be able to take all of our Zigbee and Z-Wave devices and have them exposed to the rest of our Matter network or not? What do you guys think? But one of those things that I am so excited about will become a beta here in the near future. And why I'm so excited about this one is because WebCore requires people to script, and that will stop a lot of people from creating really complex automations. And in a lot of cases, complex automations are needed to mimic what's actually going on in your life or the type of automation you'd like to create. Now, what I think will fix this is called the Routine Creator Beta. And the idea behind this is that people like myself who maybe don't want to fully code but are kind of a power user of the platform can go and create kind of that mid-level complexity automation, and then all I have to do is provide a 6-digit code, and then you would place that into your application. Then you would have to do things like fill in the different devices you have, or maybe some of the time delays that I've put into these routines, and this will come from a number of power users around the world, so you'll be able to pick and choose. That 6-digit code is so similar to the way WebCore works. You just get a 4-digit letter and number code, and then you can import a really complex script and then do a little bit of modification. And it's also very similar to the way SmartThings Edge is working, where you just get a link, you click on that, and then you can go get a driver that turns your device, whatever that device is, into a locally connected device that no longer requires the internet to work. Taking devices and automations to a local execution is so crucial for you. And if you don't know what I'm talking about with SmartThings Edge and this whole opportunity, then you need to check out the video that's up on screen where I show you what I went through to get a number of devices locally executing automations on my hub with this new feature that's so easy to implement. Otherwise, thanks for watching today, and of course, don't hate, automate.